Right, I think we're live, are we?
Cool.
No, we're not.
Where? Yes, we are. You must start.
Oh, yeah, but it's not coming up live yet.
It is on there.
Oh, okay, we're just ready, mate.
Yeah.
All right, good start. Cool. So my name's Joe. I'm the head brewer and owner here at Firebrand Brewing. This is John,
Evening.
who does almost everything else, certainly production-wise. So this is the first time we've done a online tasting or anything like this, so you have to bear with us, much like this to start. But we'll do what we can. Yeah, if anyone wants to ask any questions, if you stick it in the live chat, we're going to keep an eye on it here, and we'll try and answer them on here as best we can, unless they're too difficult, and then we'll pretend we haven't seen them. So what we thought we'd probably do is just, well, to be honest, get cracking. We've got 8 beers to get through. Well, not get through, enjoy. So we figured we'd start on the Citra Red. We sort of vaguely build up in sort of strength and sort of how powerful the flavors are. So we'll start with the Citra Red. And then any general comments or any general questions or questions about the beer, anything like that, preferably beer related, and we'll go from there. Is there anything else to say?
No, just, yeah, comment away, ask us some questions. Really nice to see you all. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So yeah, start the Citra Red.
Relatively new beer, this one.
Yeah, we brewed it as a limited batch around Christmas. It's one we're going to put into cask when the pub's open again, and there's any point for someone to drink it. So the idea of this is sort of a gentle red ale, to showcase the sort of malt as well as the hops. I thought it was a nice place to start. First on tasting, but a huge part of the flavour of beer is in the aroma. So make sure before you drink it, obviously you want to, give it a really good sniff, give it a swirl around to release the aroma. Sort of let us know what you're picking up. Let us know what you're thinking. What are you thinking?
I'm looking forward to that on cask. It tastes good.
It does, yeah.
Absolutely. Good to know. Citra.
So
All of the lovely hops.
So this is dry hop. We use about, I think it's 2 grams a litre of citrus. They're not as heavy as some of the other ones, but a decent amount. Yeah, so after you smelt it, give it a really big sip, really fill the mouth with it. And then when you swallow it, which you must do, it's not like a wine, there's no that spitting rubbish. You've got to drink it, the bitterness sensors all in the back, so you have to drink it to get the full flavour. So the idea of this is, sort of a well-balanced, still getting plenty of the citrus notes, I think.
Absolutely. First beer of the evening. It's nice.
It's first beer of the evening. It's gentle one to start us off
Good
with.
session beer. Could be nice in the sun one day. Yeah.
Any particular flavours you're picking up?
The citrus.
Yeah.
The lemony.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
From the Citra.
Yeah, and then I think there's some malt as well.
Sweet malt, sweet red malt. Yeah.
I've got a few bits coming in.
Chris has got a caramel note to it. Absolutely, Chris. Definitely that.
See.
Straight away, Tanaglyph, how did you get into brewing?
It seemed like a good idea at the time, really. I was working in a pub when I was 20, 21, doing a degree in marine aquaculture, and just kept reading about microbreweries starting up. So this was back in 2007, 2008. And then a local farmer, Stephen, who's still a partner in the business, and the main brewer, one of the main brewers, said, well, if you're serious about this, come up with an actual business plan, and we'll back it. And we've got a farm building, an old milking parlour. And so we started from there, really. Really enjoying cask beer at the time. Like I said, it was a few years ago. And then around 2014, well, no, a bit earlier, 2012, getting more into the craft sort of beer, the hoppier American style beers, which led to Firebrand Brewing. Starting with Graffiti IPA, which we're trying a bit. And it sort of developed from there, really.
It's good. Graham Montague there. Hey, Graham, how you doing? Saying enjoying it at room temperature. almost warm. That's is that a thing with beer where do the hop flavors die off when it's chilled? Is there something?
Yeah, it will suppress some of the flavors, and particularly sort of a beer like this, which is, to be honest, more of a cask beer. It will bring out some of those flavors. I mean, I tend to drink the beer on the colder side.
Yeah.
I'll get more refreshing, but it is personal preference, really. Yeah. I think a beer like this, which is sort of a more balanced beer, does stand up to being that a little bit warmer compared to maybe something like really hop forward pale ales. Yeah, certainly.
Cheers.
We're going to be relatively quick through the beers. Just because we are, because we don't otherwise be here all night with 8 beers. So we will go relatively fast through them. So don't feel you have to keep pace with drinking the whole can of each beer.
Ben was asking what gives it the red look.
It's the malts. So we use Cara medium and crystal malts and a tiny bit of roast barley in it. It just gives that darker malts, and particularly roast barley and Cara medium, give it that red sort of hue. And we're after that sort of sweetness.
Yep.
As a bit of a counterpoint to some of the really hoppy pale ales we've been doing. Yeah.
Good stuff. Bob says, nice and fresh, dry, astringent, after a nice original red fruit taste.
Yeah.
Good.
That's
Thanks, Bob.
That's normal, Bob. You
Good
want to back on? Well, you've drunk plenty of our beer.
Chris says, we've got all night, lads. Take your time.
Fair.
Not to hurry.
Yeah. Well, my wife might shout at me if I'm too late. It's a tenuous excuse to go to a bar. The only bar we're allowed to go to.
Oh. Want to talk about that yet or no?
I can do, yeah. So where we sit, this will be the bar. So we're just moving into a new brewery. The whole brewery we're moving. We've been out on the sticks in the sticks near Alton since we founded in 2008. And we're just now the next stage, really. We're moving to a nice new unit on Pennygillam in Launceston, our local town, which will have, apart from a much bigger brew house and more, just a nicer setup, we'll also have this tap room, which overlooks the brewery, which you can just about see. Maybe, depends on the reflection. And yeah, we've been doing the work in lockdown. And so hopefully, come May, people be allowed or able to come and drink our range of beers in the brewery.
Come see us. Got a little shop if you're passing by on holiday, coming down to Cornwall or going past through, just pop in, come say hello, grab some beers. Gregor, will it be available again? Yes, absolutely. It will be available again. We've got some more. We're just waiting on some labels. Got the labels now. So yeah, absolutely be back on the site if it isn't already by Monday.
And we will be brewing this again as well, because this was one that our guide looked at, Richard, who looks after all our cask sales. He was very keen to have this in cask. We did it around autumn, and he took a couple of mini kegs home with him and enjoyed it. And he's one he wants in cask for as soon as the pub's open. So I think this is one we will run with a bit more. So with the other limited batches, we often do just one brew and that's it. This one, because of the cask sort of side of it, it's a little bit different.
Where'd the inspiration for the Firebrand logo come from?
The logo?
Yeah.
So this new logo, obviously we rebranded. So we've had obviously we've been around as Firebrand Brewing since 2013. And so the logo we had before was one we just made up. We just made it ourselves. And then so it came sort of 2 years ago, we, wanted to basically make it better. And so we hired Kingdom of Sparrow, who did an amazing job. And so they took a bunch of things that we wanted. We wanted to be modern, clean, kind of cool looking, but also wanted it to say something about provenance, being in Cornwall. And so they came up with this, which is sort of loosely based on the chough, sort of a version of. So the fire-breathing bird of Cornish legend and all that. And the shape, the outer shape, that represents the barn, because obviously we've been in a milking parlour or barn, and so it sort of represents that, but in sort of a cool modern form, because we wanted it. Yeah, it's branding. It's got to look cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of thing.
Got to appeal.
Well, yeah.
Well, thank you for the question, Daniel. Sorry I didn't say your name. Oh, Sean, we started with Citra Red.
Sorry, yes.
We started with. No, he's just joined. I was wondering. Oh, which beer should we go to next? Oh, we have to hurry, but just to let them know.
I reckon Patchwork next.
Cool.
I think was my plan.
Yeah.
Again, the idea was just to vaguely build up through the strength. They're mostly pale ales, obviously, or IPAs, apart from the coffee stout. So we'll sort of get that in a bit later on.
Okay.
But that was the plan.
Cool. Let us know how we can find you, or can we just turn up, or when are you expecting to open the shops?
The shop's kind of the problem. Yeah, people are sort of coming off furlough a bit now, so because obviously the trade sales have been somewhat slow with pubs being shut and everything. But yeah, I mean, we're here Monday to Thursday. There's someone here now, 9 till 5, and so the shop's open for that. Is technically an essential business, apparently, buying beer. From before that, from the April date, we'll be here, or 8 till 5, and then as I said, from sort of the May date, we're going to open the tap room. We're pretty much ready to go on that, so there shouldn't be any delay on that. And yeah,
Looking forward to that. Looking forward to having a beer on cask or keg again. Been a little while. Can's lovely, bottle's great, but just having it freshly
nice
poured.
to go to a pub.
Yeah, without doubt.
Definitely. Shall we?
Go on to the next.
Yeah, we'll move on to Patchwork. Don't feel you have to keep up necessarily. Yeah.
You're right, it's Gillian. I'm going to grab my jumper quickly.
Yeah, just a couple of glasses over while you do that. There's a question there about Patchwork, which
Let's have a look. Love a Patchwork. There's a question from Ella. Love a Patchwork. Where does this sit in terms of pub? Is it for cask or keg? Feels quite mainstream with a craft twist. Exactly that.
Yeah, it's basically that. We do it predominantly in cask. To be honest, we were going to put it in keg, but last year we were so busy selling it in cask that we just didn't get a chance. So we've done it in cask and can predominantly. But the idea is it's sort of a modern pale, but just sort of that step forward. So it is dry hopped quite heavily for sort of a cask session male. There's sort of 4 grams a litre in total. Mosaic and Apollo hops, both through the boil and dry hopped as well. So it bridges that. I guess a super modern cask bit would be sort of.
I haven't tried this on cask yet.
It was nice. I don't know, campsite. It was nice. Didn't do any of the smelling that thing.
Oh no, I didn't smell that. I want that in cask.
It'd be nice.
One day soon. One day.
Yeah, I tend to prefer beer in keg or can rather than cask, but some beers do just work really well. And having went to a campsite last year, camping with the family for a couple of days, had Patchwork on cask, and it's the sort of thing that suits. So modern, crisp, sort of floral. I don't know what other sort of flavours we're getting from it.
A little dry. Almost like a little strawy.
Yeah, I think there's some fruit going on in there, isn't there? There's sort of maybe not mango, but something along those lines. There's some sweetness to it as well.
Let's have a look. This one's lighter and slightly tropical from Julie.
Yeah,
Luke.
I would say so. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, which specific tropical fruit? We always become a little unstuck in not making up tropical fruit that it tastes like, but it's certainly got a hint of that, and I think a bit of a sweetness it leaves as well. I think.
John asks, clean glassware, who's doing the washing up? As we're in the tap room, which is nearly in the glass washer.
I installed the glass washer earlier for this very purpose. Had to go and buy some rinse aid and get it fired up. Don't want to wash them by hand.
Ben asks, where does the name come from for Patchwork Rocket?
Patchwork Rocket, so this is our sort of name brainstorming. So it's basically based on synonyms from the hops. So the hops are Mosaic and Apollo. And obviously Mosaic sort of synonym with Patchwork, kind of. And Apollo is obviously a rocket, so that's where it comes from, Patchwork Rocket.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, yeah. I mean, it fits somehow.
Tim, I don't taste a big difference between the patchwork and the West Coast. Am I missing something? What are the hops in the West Coast?
Mosaic and Equinox.
Mosaic and
So there's a common
Yeah.
thread with the Mosaic. I mean, they've got slightly different malt base, and I would say a big difference is the level of bitterness. The bitterness in the patchwork, you're only talking sort of 25 EBUs, whereas the West Coast, you're more like 45. So there is quite a big bitterness difference. Particularly if you have, let's say, something on cask, you get like West Coast comes out quite bitter, as on keg. So I prefer West Coast personally on keg. I think it works really well.
So because probably the Mosaic hop will be the similar thing between those two bits.
Yeah. I mean, they've got quite different, they're hopped in different ways, and they do have, but there is a Mosaic thread through them, and they are both pale ales.
But it's such a good hop.
I love Mosaic. It's my favourite hop, so you find Mosaic popping up a lot in a lot of our beers.
John says, seriously, that's textbook. Cool. Thank you, John. Christine, lovely citrus undertones.
Oh,
yeah. Edward asks, how long does it take from start to can to brew this beer?
Roughly 2 weeks, roughly. We sort of primary fermentation, obviously the brewing day, and primary fermentation sort of 5 days. Then we let it sit for a day on chill, let the bulk of the yeast and the trube drop out, and then we dry hop it. Then we dry hop it for 3 days, and then after that we sort of try and get take out most of the dry hop out the bottom, carbonate it, let it clear. To some extent, and then look to can it sort of 2 to 3 days after that. It's relatively quick. It's not like a lager where we're sort of 12 weeks or 8 weeks in vessel. The lager we've just canned was 12 weeks. But it's relatively rapid. The trick is really leaving it on chill long enough to get because we do, like we said earlier, we dry hop it to quite a high level for a cask beer. But we still wanted to have the sort of the clarity, because this isn't a sort of a really thick beer we'll sell on keg or can, or we want the sort of clarity with it as well. And so it's getting it to drop out takes that time.
Yep.
I think.
Cool.
Easier to clean out than some of the other ones.
Yeah, absolutely. David Kingsnorth, hello. Hope you're well. Do we have a tap room? Yes, absolutely. We'll be opening the tap room as soon as restrictions allow. We're almost ready to go. A few more bits and bobs to put into place. We've got a little shop. We're just on an industrial estate called Pennygillam in Launceston in Cornwall. So yes, you can come up and buy beers. And the tap room will be open. And Ella was asking what nights will be open. Weekends to start.
Yeah, to begin with, it will just be Friday and Saturday evenings, and then come June, we're going to open on Thursdays as well. So it won't be every day. People will be allowed or able to come along when we're open during the day. If they pop into the shop, we'll have tasters and things like that. And people will be able to see the brewery, sort of in lieu of the space to do proper brewery tours. We can have the tap room, as I said, because it overlooks. You'll be able to see us sort of in operation, hopefully busily working.
Yep.
Maybe not.
Oh, Alex was asking, that's a very specific question, Alex, but I do agree. Is the Hop Symphony ever going to make a return? That was a beer that you brewed just when I started back at the brewery in June?
Yeah.
May, June? That was pokey. Was that 10? No, no.
I don't think so. 7.5.
Yeah. I thought it was stronger than that.
Probably, yeah. I mean,
that was a good recipe.
The Hop Symphony was, without sort of lifting the veil too much on the process, it was slightly a way to use up a lot of hops that we had. Because when we do these brews, especially these limited batch brews, we come up with a recipe and we say we want 4 grams a litre of Citra and 3 grams a litre of Mosaic, and I sort of design the recipe around what I want to put in it. But that does mean you end up, after a month or two of doing that, you end up with quite a lot of little bits left over of hops you don't use. Mosaic we use all the time, so we don't have leftover hops, but the Hop Symphony was a little bit of a recipe designed to use up lots and lots of these little bits of hops that are left over. So
there could be another Hop Symphony in the pipeline.
Yeah, it just might not be the same. but we could do the same. It was nice.
Well, that was just as it started again. That's good. Ben, I was asking, what is it that makes a beer better in cask than keg, or vice versa?
Well, I mean, it's all subjective.
Yeah, they're just different.
Yeah, I mean, some of it is the temperature. So, like I was saying about the West Coast being bitter, and I think it can be a little bitter for cask, whereas in keg, that temperature difference does help suppress the bitterness and helps it refreshing. Bitterness helps it to be refreshing. It's sort of, and I guess it's how you drink it as well. I mean, a cask beer, you don't want necessarily the sort of beer that you only, this would be nice to drink a couple of pints of, in my opinion.
I could spend all evening.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a nice session beer, but then I get tired of the taste of that.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas something like one we'll try later, maybe the Mandarin Mosaic and the Quattro, they're more, you drink that beer, you savor that beer, but you wouldn't have 3 or 4 of them in a row.
No, at 8.5%. I'd rather have like a little nice cold half pint than a pint of cask.
Yeah. So I think part of it is designing beers around, almost starting with the end. How do you want to drink the beer? Do you want to drink it sort of concentrated on it, focused on it, as a tasting thing?
Yep.
Which is fine. That's a reasonable way to do it. But what we generally, it's good to be drunk, isn't it? Mm-hmm. With people, preferably, or one person.
Got any collabs lined up? That's trade secrets, right?
Trade secret. Yeah. Well, we've got we've got one with caps off, which is going to be a bit of a mad one. I think we've got sort of Earl Grey and Yuzu in the mix, and a Belgian yeast. So we shall see. We shall see. And we've got a couple more tentatively online, but nothing confirmed up yet. Everyone going.
It's not on the list tonight, Tim. Hello, Tim. It's not on the list tonight, but how did the Black IPA collab with Australia come about? And he says, it's a cracking beer, and I agree, Tim. I like a Black IPA. Somebody in the room is not always keen on the idea of Black IPAs, but I thought that was a great beer. I agree, Tim.
To be fair, I did like the Black Phoenix. I think what I don't like is bitter Black IPAs particularly. I think it's that bitterness of the IPA doesn't work overly well, in my opinion. Whereas the Black Phoenix, we hopped more like a Nipah, so it was a lot of dry hop, a lot of late hop, and not a lot of bitterness. So I did like that. How it came about, one of the co-owners just had friends out in Australia who either live close or know the owners of Black Hops, who we did the collab with. So it's just through that, really. It's just then we just had a really good chat back and forth through email and live chat and things with the brewer over there about what to do, and then the idea of using English and Australian hops. That's that really.
Perfect timing, Caroline. Question from Caroline: any plans for imperial stouts and barrel aging?
Yes. We've literally just arrived this afternoon. We've still got to bring them in because they're outside. But some new, more barrel racking or stillages so that we can rack up. So far, we've only we've only done 2 or 4 barrels at a time, so we can just sort of put them in the corner. But the plan is to up that substantially. I mean, that last one, I think everyone really liked it. But
the bourbon stouts.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And so yes, definitely more. There is a long process though. I mean, we're waiting for this new brew house to come online to brew it, the new beers to go into the barrels, and then we want to leave them in there for getting on for a year. So yes, but not overly imminent in the actual drinking of them. And we want to put a few more styles in them as well. I mean, stout work wonderfully, but I love an old ale style, or even some Belgian style doubles, maybe something like that.
Years ago, you did a old ale, like was it Chivrac, Chateau Chivrac in little bottles?
Yeah, in red wine. That was red wine barrels.
Yeah, that was good. Was it ages ago?
It was.
That's before I worked here. From the brewery shop in town, I think.
Yeah. I really like, and that's the sort of way to look to get some other types of barrels. I mean, we've got some really nice bourbon ones, bourbon. But it'd be nice to get some more red wine barrels because it's a nice strong beer in those. It just adds that layers of complexity. I really enjoy it. Yes. I don't know. I think that was about it.
Excellent. Oh, let's let people know what beer we'll be doing again in a minute. What's coming up next?
We're going to do the Anne Howe next. This one. It's really bad front. But so yeah, again, sort of building out slowly as a bit stronger. But we'll go through that in a moment.
Everybody who's just recently joined us, I'm John. I work in production. This is Joe, head brewer and owner. Welcome. Please do pop some comments and questions on the side. We'll try and get through as many as we can. Thanks for joining us. Eventually, we'll be able to join us properly, but at the moment, we'll just have some beers together online.
Absolutely.
Oh, Ella was wondering why can rather than bottle these days.
Well, loads of reasons, really. Flavor is when you cut out all light, and light does degrade the compounds and hops, even if you don't get the skunk beer. So amber bottles actually cut that out. But it still UV does degrade beer flavor, so having can does get rid of that. Environmental is another big reason.
Yeah.
You know, a pallet of bottles is heavy, and you know we only get sort of 1,200 bottles on a pallet. With cans, we get 4,000. So you know, you're getting over double, 3 times. You know, the amount of cans on one delivery instead of lots. It's also, I think, more recyclable. I think. Yeah, it stacks better and takes up less room. Stacks better on fridges. Stacks better in warehouses. It's just generally more efficient way of having packaging beer. Really, it is more investment heavy because you know there are more. It's more technical process putting in cans to bottles. I think, or certainly we found. And so it wasn't until last year where we could install a canning line. Before we did contract canning, and that has its ups and downs. But we got the canning line installed last November, and that's made a huge difference. And we've got a DA meter, we can control the process in every step. And yeah, that's good.
I don't like bottling.
And bottling's
manual bottling.
yeah, that's the most important thing.
That's a good enough reason.
Bottling is more boring.
Hey, Karen, how you doing? Just a little hay up. Let's see. Now I've moved from, Andrew. Hello, Andrew. Now I've moved from Lewonic to Australia. Am I going to be able to taste any of the Firebrand Oz collabs over here? I would guess if you go to Black Hops, sure they've got a site, maybe got an online shop.
They were only selling that one through the tap rooms, I believe. They've got 3 tap rooms, but wherever they're based, Gold Coast, I want to say.
You have to visit their tap room.
Yeah, or we do another collab, or hopefully someone in Australia buys our beer. Be nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
As an importer.
That's a very good question from Alex. If you could have one Firebrand beer for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, no, I don't know.
For me, it would be Anne Howe. Because I still like Anne Howe. Anne Howe was the very first Firebrand beer I ever tried from a decade or more ago, way before it worked or had an interest in brewing at all. And I still think that's a great beer.
Fair.
Possibly Anne Howe.
I don't know. I think West Coast, maybe I did, and it's not in the box actually, which is a bit of a I think. But I love the West Coast. I don't know. I'm stumped now.
Yeah.
It probably depends what mood I am at the point of deciding.
Yeah.
Right now, I really fancy a Thundercloud, and I've been looking forward to that. So
Yeah.
if you ask me right now, I'd probably say Thundercloud, but that might change. Should we move on subject around how? Should we?
Yeah. Let's move on.
Should we?
Absolutely. You got a glass?
Do you want? Have you got a glass? Can you pass me?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. That's just the right percentage.
That's nice.
Am I right? Just like a proper
Forget how much I like that.
golden bitter.
Yeah. I think this is the last one, slightly more, not that traditional, actually Patrick's not traditional, but this is, so, as I mentioned before, we've been brewing since 2008. We started as Pen Pont Brewery. back then, and we sort of slowly transitioned to Firebrand brewing, which is sort of as the more traditional styles we did with Pen Pont, sort of were replaced by the Firebrand beers that we really wanted to brew and where we were doing. And that was one of the last couple of beers that we sort of produced and came up with under Pen Pont. But have stuck with us, and we do love it. It's like I said, it's more of a golden ale. I think now, if you brewed it, you'd probably call it a pale ale or an IPA.
Yeah.
But I've always thought of it. It's not, to my mind, hoppy enough probably to be an IPA.
No, there's no dry hops in this.
No dry hop. No.
Which I think is great that you can still brew a nice, tasty, bitter beer, but without using that dry hop.
Well, maybe I would stick with that. How am I wondering? I don't drink it often enough.
I also like him not using dry hops because it's easy to clean the vessels out. It's just easier
Yeah,
for me.
but I like dry hopping. I like dry hopping. We're not going to give it.
Let's Marum. I agree. I love a glass. I've got a whole variety of different glasses. Have you ever considered a glass design like they do in Belgium? And does it really enhance the flavour?
Well, they do. Well, yeah, they do. If you have a curved glass, it will trap the aromas. Yeah, exactly that. And if you do get sort of bowl-shaped ones or the stem glasses, and we possibly would. We have experimented with a few different ones, and now we've got the tap room. We're probably more likely to do things like that. I'm not a massive fan of the billion types of glassware personally, but yeah, no, everyone else likes it. It's just me. Neanderthal drinking out of a straight glass or straight out the can. In fact, generally.
Hey, Declare, yes, the matching hoodies. We're trying not to be matching, but it's kind of chilly in here, so I had to put my jumper on, and we just happen to wear the same thing.
Yeah. So I don't know if any. Did you pick out any particular flavours from this?
It just tastes like anhel.
It's not okay.
It's anhel, not a flavour.
Anhel's not yet. It's not quite got the Coca-Cola.
My melon?
Melon? Yeah.
Melony kind of. How about you guys? Are you picking out any particular flavours with anhel? Let us know. Type a little comment.
I think melon and malt.
That was a crowd split. A very Marmite beer was the passion fruit sour with Lost Brewing was lush. I agree, that was lush. It was so tart, like proper passion fruit, not like sweet, like reef or squash passion fruit, but like proper passion fruit. I agree, that was lush.
It was tarter than we intended. Again, we didn't want to add too. Well, basically, I'm not a big fan of adding loads of sort of sweeteners or lactose and things to beers. So I do like them to have the natural, to ferment out naturally. But that does mean, particularly with fruit beers, you do get that tartness to them, and that one was particularly tart. And it wasn't used. There's no sort of artificial flavourings in it. It was just sort of passion fruit in it.
It was almost not a challenge, but it was like,
made you think about it.
Yeah. There we go.
If anyone's had the sea buckthorn, the sea buckthorn sour, I prefer that as a beer to think about. I guess a slight challenge because that I didn't think tasted like anything else.
No, it didn't have. You couldn't say that tasted like pineapple or like something. It was like a new flavour almost.
And that's another one that at least 50% of people hate, and the other 50% love. But it's
I like it. I like a little sour. If you're having a few beers, I find having a little sour in between just refreshes the palate, changes the taste, and makes the next beer taste more sweet.
And we'll do more kettle sours. And it's obviously not one here. I always think they're a summer thing, really. Kettle sours, they're light, they're refreshing.
No.
Mixed fermentation brews, I don't know whether we'll do them here. Certainly initially. Need another site, really, a fermentation site. Or maybe we'll build a shed in the car park.
We're up to Edwards asks, what are some of the most exciting craft beers you like at the moment? Thank you for the question. Mine is Mandarin Mosaic.
That's
It's
right, on
so
brand.
tasty, and we're basically out of it. You guys have bought the boxes, and we're gonna have to brew that again because it's proper nice. I'm looking forward to that one.
I'm guessing it means beers from other people.
Hmm. Which one recently I liked? Oh, there was a Vietnamese, it was a Tesco beer, Vietnamese coffee collab brewdog and someone. I really like that because it had that like caramel wafer coffee taste. It was a stout. That was good. I like that. But I like stout. And I like a strange flavour in my stout.
We love your quirky flavours and things. I think most beers I've bought from other people recently have been Neepers, juicy Neepers, I think, which I do love. Obviously, the usual suspects of Pipeline and Verdant and everyone like that.
I haven't had a Verdant beer in ages.
I bought some in Lockdown.
I haven't been to a brew shop in ages.
No, that's the thing. And we do have lots of beer here. So, the good thing about Lockdown, like many good things, but the most important thing about Lockdown lifting is that we'll be able to go and try some other people's beers. Yeah.
Oh, linking to that, David, hey David, alrighty, says, do we have a favourite Cornish brewer? He's a big fan of Verdant as well.
Black Flag, maybe?
Yeah,
Black Flag.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're really nice guys as well.
Black Flag's Fang.
Fang.
Tasty one.
Pipeline's really good. Verdant's really good. I mean, it's quite a lot good.
There's so many good ones, without a doubt.
Yeah, no, there are. Very lucky to live in Cornwall, really.
Christian asks, what's the most experimental flavour you have tried to create, and was it successful?
Well, I guess the Dead Elvis has to be up
Yeah,
there. Dead Elvis. So that was the Dead Elvis, or the Dead Elvis sandwich. So peanut butter, bacon,
Banana.
Peanut butter, bacon, banana sandwich, and we create that in a beer. So we figured what we'd do to get the banana flavour, use like a Hefeweizen yeast to make it a wheat beer. Use smoked malt to give that sort of bacon edge. What was the other thing?
Dehydrated peanut.
That's right. It was de-oiled peanut powder. Yeah. Was it successful? It was fine. It wasn't as extreme as we were hoping for. I think it was one of those. It was a night. It ended up tasting like quite a pleasant wheat beer with like a bit of complexity and a bit of things going on.
And a nutty finish.
With a bit of a nut. Yeah, exactly that. It's sort of one of those. I sort of keep meaning. We did one brew of it, one small brew, and this was like 4 or 5 years ago at least.
Yeah,
maybe longer.
No.
It's sort of on the quite a long way down the list, but on the list one day to do again because I do quite like it. As a concept.
Keith B, evening. How are you doing? Second Chances has been his favourite beer so far, and he's had a few. Was there a different hop we used in that? Was it a cryo hop or something?
That's right. Yeah,
technique.
We used cryo hops, and an awful lot of them. We used a slightly different yeast as well. We used a different strain that we cultured up from a white lab sample. We just took it and made a pitchable volume and pitched that. Can't actually remember what the strain was.
It's a long time ago. Well, not a long time. A while ago.
August.
No.
And cryo hops, and that was the great thing about collabs is you just get different ways of brewing, different sort of techniques of building recipes. So you build it together, and it just brings something different. And Stacey, we did that with Rock Club. And
Lovely chap.
Yes.
Seen him for a long time.
No. Lockdown. Yes.
I haven't seen anybody or been anywhere for a long time. I just lost my place. Damien, apologies, my wife says the raspberry beers is what I should have asked about. I think we should do that again, the raspberry sour.
Yeah.
That was tasty sour. It's good fruit to go in a sour.
It is.
Well, because it made it taste more back to being like a raspberry and that little bitter.
Tartness.
Yeah.
I think definitely kettle sours come this summer, presuming we have time and space, and by the time we finalise the move here, because that's still a work in progress. We're hoping to get our first test brews in at the new site in early May. Unfortunately, the gas installation people wouldn't do anything in lockdown, so we've been sitting here waiting, building tap room, doing DIY projects. But certainly, if we can get everything up and running, the plan is to do more in the way of, I think, kettle sours. I really like that. And it's a really interesting process to brew as well. So you have that 2-stage fermentation. You've got the initial lactose souring, and then the fermentation with the standard brewer's yeast afterwards. No, it's just interesting projects to do.
And that links tidily onto
It's seamless.
any plans to get on the current triple IPA trend? Thank you for the question, Ollie.
Yes. The issue we've had, yes, that's it. Just yes.
Next question.
Yeah. No, the issue we have at the moment is our mash tun is far too small for where we are. So we just to get enough malt in to the mash tun to get a decent sized brew and enough brew for our kettle to cope with just isn't possible at the moment unless we added an absolute shed load of like glucose or something to it. And don't really want to go down that route because you kind of want, I think with a triple IPA, you want there's nothing wrong with adding sugars to your brewing process. It helps make a really strong beer more drinkable. Certainly the Belgians do it like literally all the time. But I think if you want to do a triple IPA, you want that thickness to it. And to do that, we just need a bigger mash tun, which when we move, it might not be the first brew off the line, but certainly as soon as we get a spot of time, that's definitely on the list. And higher up the list than whatever the other one was, Dead Elvis.
Yeah.
A lot higher up the list.
A question from Jen. If you're having a few beers, do you stay on the same style, i.e. stick to IPAs or golden ales? And does that affect the flavour? Please excuse me just 1 minute. I'll leave you with that question.
Fair. It will affect the flavour, like everything, when we do our beer tastings at the brewery, we do them in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, before food, before you've obviously had coffee and things, but because any sensory that you pick up from anywhere else is going to affect the taste of the beer. And obviously when we do our sort of weekly quality control tastings here, it's really important that we're just tasting the beer. So, I mean, obviously I wouldn't put that much effort into like a session idea, but I would tend to stick personally to the same style of beer. If I tend to drink, pale ales and IPAs. Sequentially, generally working up in strength. Because if you try an 8% NEPA first, I mean, if you then try and drink a 4% session beer straight after that, you're just not going to taste it because your taste buds can't deal with it. Turns out I can't read that. I have to wait for John to come back. Worst brewing disaster. I thought someone might ask that. I think the only, other than just, every so often you have a spoiled beer, I think the worst one that was just a miscalculation when we brewed a ginger beer. I got bored of doing the rind. Didn't you do the rind on the lemons?
Pairing,
that's the one. Got bored of doing that because we had to do about 60 kilos of lemons, so I just blended all the lemons up and just chucked them all in, pith and all. Yeah, I mean, this was quite a long time ago, in my defense. That was absolutely revolting. It was just like,
pithy.
Well, you'd like strip paint off that. It was just absolutely, we didn't sell it for obvious reasons.
You live and learn.
You do. I mean, that one.
Makes mistakes.
Yeah, I think some things you can predict. I mean, that was one we possibly could have seen coming. Should we? I mean, we are going from a bit fast, but I think
time for another beer.
Time for another beer.
Yeah.
I'll take a couple of glasses. So, trying on the 330s, Graffiti IPA. This is 5%.
Paul got a dirty look for ordering a pint of the passion fruit in lunch, and everybody else was ordering halves. Ignore them, Paul. Enjoy.
Do you
Have a pint. Do it.
Although slightly mad. This is Graffiti IPA. This is sort of the beer that would. Fair.
Well, this was this on keg. I think the first time I drank this, I had this on keg. Because this was like the first Firebrand beer after being Pempont tradition.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. It's all right. Just let me into it. So this is kind of the beer that we sort of started Firebrand brewing, because we wanted to brew these modern IPA style beers. We tried, I guess IPA being an obvious one, but sort of back in 2012, 2013, they just started coming out. Drinking Stone started being available over here a bit more. things like that. And we wanted to brew these modern American pale ales. And we sold it a bit under Pen Pump Brewery with our old branding, but it just didn't really work. You're trying to sell super modern style beer with traditional branding was just, you're fighting two things at once there. And so, yeah, graffiti, I mean, we've tweaked it along the lines. The hops have gone up. I say year on year. We sort of...
As our tolerance for
hops
has
goes up. Exactly that. So I think we started off at sort of 1 gram a litre, and now we're on 4 grams a litre for this one. Cascade and Citra. Yeah, Cascade and Citra.
Cascade is a very American hop, isn't it?
I like Cascade.
You find it in American IPAs, like APA kind of
Well,
style.
I mean, sort of Cascade is responsible in a way, for American pale ales here in Nevada. That's kind of Cascade is what they use it as an aroma hop, and that's and I really like Cascade. We use it obviously in the graffiti. And we also use it in our lager to give that sort of that lemony citrus note to it. Sort of gives that slightly. It just tastes like a more modern pale ale, I think, and gets away from that sort of spicy herbal thing that some pilsners have. Yeah. Any particular thing you're picking up from this? Is that...
That's just great. There's I'm picking up greatness.
It's very solid, precise tasting going on.
It's just a great 5% IPA. It's not just. It is a great 5% IPA.
Certainly, this is more grapefruity, maybe something more.
Yeah, like grapefruit pith.
The pith is something citrusy, rather than not so much of the tropical because it doesn't have mosaic in it.
Let us know. What are you tasting? What does it smell like? What does it taste like to you?
Yeah, I think it's all subjective. So just because we think it's great.
Richard says the Columbus limited batch was amazing. Any chance of making that a core range? Was that the recent one, the Simcoe Columbus? That was good.
It was
just brewed.
The problem is we always do this. We brew these limited batch breweries, and then we really like certain ones. Like this Citra Simcoe was supposed to be a one batch, and then a year later it's still going. Same with Thundercloud. Same with Anne Howe, and that was 2010. So you sort of it becomes a big production problem having so many core beers, really. And you've kind of I guess getting rid of it's not like getting rid of a child. Should be a bit easier than that, less legal ramifications. But you've got to get rid of one of the beers really to get another one in instead. If you keep adding new beers to the range, it just becomes a production nightmare and a stock holding. And you want the beer to sell fresh. I mean, fresh beer is important, so you don't want to build up huge amounts of stock of any one particular beer, because you want the beer going out as fresh as you can, really. Sort of 6 weeks, really. You can.
Jen was asking, do you try to replicate other beers you have from different breweries with a Firebrand twist? Which I said the other day we need to brew Fallen Saison again. Because I think that's it's not just a Firebrand twist. No, people have done it, but it's taken that Belgian style.
Yeah, when we first brewed a beer like this, so Fallen Saison was like a American hopped Saison, but really hoppy. And that was basically because I really liked the Duvel Citra, which I think is the first triple hop that they did. And then they went and did a few other hops, which to my taste weren't as good. And now they seem to have gone back to Citra. But that was it. I tried that in Belgium, and I was just like, this is amazing. It's Belgian, but it's American hopped, and it's great. So it's not so much trying to copy necessarily, but if it's sort of, I guess it's being inspired by beers that we try. And with the Cloudy Neepers, that's, which we're sort of edging our way towards on this tasting. That just came out of drinking them and trying them from other people and wanting to brew beers that we like. And yeah, exactly that. And as our taste changes as we drink these beers, you find out what's possible. You want to do your own versions of them.
How often are you brewing? Oh, sorry, Richard. Hey, Richard. How often are you brewing small batch recipe testing brews, and what do you use for those brews? I suppose our limited batch brews are testing of flavour slightly at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, so we do like a small-ish, sort of 350 litre brew normally of any limited batch brews. And then we don't commit to releasing it unless we're absolutely certain we like it. But to be honest, we're pretty dialed in, touch wood. If there's one that doesn't taste great, we won't release it. Or that we think tastes great, or at least, interesting.
Yeah.
If we think it's not up to scratch, we won't release it. But we don't do really the sort of the small 50-litre trials yet. We have got a kit downstairs that we've been donated that we might do that, which is, especially if you want to push the boundary. I mean, what we found recently, our limited batches have very much stuck to sort of IPAs, pale ales, using hops as a predominant ingredient. What we've experienced in the past is when you deviate out of that, then it is a lot harder to get it right. You just don't have the mathematical way of building recipes. So fruit is particularly one, but especially if you get to spices, we brewed things like juniper pale ales and things like that. And there it's a lot harder to get the flavour dialed in right. Because too much and it becomes obviously undrinkable, but too little and it just becomes like a bland pale ale, which is something we've experienced in the past. So certainly over the last year, and to be fair, my taste, not necessarily everyone else's, but mine has strayed away from some of the more, not necessarily gimmicky beers, but the beers with weird and wonderful things in it. The sort of a saying we've just brewed.
I like those.
Having said earlier, we're brewing a yuzu and Earl Grey next week completely undermines my own argument, but mostly we've moved away. And compiling the recipe for that beer actually is, that we probably will be having to do a bit of a test brew for, because there's not a mathematical way of saying how much yuzu to add or how much Earl Grey or previous experience to base that on. Whereas hops, we can say, well, we know what 10 grams a litre of dry hop will do. We'll know what 20 grams a litre of dry hop will do. And in the boil as well.
Bush Baptist's caught me. He says, if I can't pee and neither can you, sit down. I'm sorry, Bush Baptist. I did have to run off a little wee then. Why don't we see more British hops being used in British craft beers?
They just don't have the sort of pungency of flavour that people expect. So it's interesting to do, and we do use a few. We use Jester. We use Jester in the Black Phoenix, actually. But then it was paired with Galaxy, so it's sort of, it will come on. I mean, a beer that we're going to try later, the Mandarina Mosaic, is Mandarina Bavaria, and to my mind, the Mandarina Bavaria hop, which was sort of the German answer to American hops, which came online maybe, 5-6 years ago. And they're doing similar things in Britain, bringing on these new varieties. But this batch of Mandarina Bavaria hops is just so much.
So orangey.
And it's so advanced from where we tried it a few years ago. And English hops are going to do the same. But people have a certain expectation on flavour, I think. And if you sell something as a craft beer, it's got to have that pungent nose, aroma, flavour, all of that. And British hops struggle to give that. And that tropical fruit, you'll pick out notes of blackberry and orange, and you'll get the notes of it. It is a more subtle flavour, I think, and that's the issue. I mean, some people are doing good things with them, and especially with the styles of beer that suit more subtle.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with them. More like British bitters and those sort of more cask ales, get the fruit, like the berry fruit kind of flavours and earthy flavours from British hops.
And other styles where the hops not necessarily the very front and centre. So lagers, I mean, Utopian use all British ingredients, I think, and they do some really nice lagers and cultures and things like that. It's just about, Belgian basically do some really nice, complex, sort of more subtle flavours. I think that's the, but they will get more pungent as well. We will have stronger, and then we'll use them more.
Graham asks, how do we decide the name for the beers?
Generally,
what the hops are.
often what the hops are. If I've already used those hops, or it's just not a name that works, a bit of brainstorming in the office, and then generally I just make it up when I'm designing the label and say that if anyone comes up with something better, I'll change it, and then generally no one does. So, I mean, some of the naming is a little basic. Coffee stout being called coffee stout, I'd say, is
it's fairly obvious, but that's what it is.
Graffiti sort of comes from when we were originally doing, so Firebrand, the actual name kind of comes from where we were when we first started Firebrand Brewing. We were branding the we wanted to brand the actual pump clip into a piece of driftwood, just because it would be cool. Fun thing to do, go to the beach. And so we did that for a little bit, although it's apparently way harder to find driftwood than you think, and branding it in isn't easy. So Firebrand brewing came from that, and graffiti kind of came from before that, where we were trying to do like spray paint pump clips. But that's, again, way harder than Banksy makes it look. Turns out I have a singular lack of talent when it comes to something kind of painting. So the graffiti name came from there. Most of the other names are, yeah, they're sort of like the Patrick Rocket, sort of silly synonyms, or just ideas we've had when we're sitting there trying to design all the labels for a certain batch of limited batches.
Ah, that's a good one. Tommy Cliff, hello. Favorite ale apart from your brand?
Favorite ale?
Favorite ale, yeah.
I don't drink in pubs often enough. Since I had young kids, I haven't gone to a pub often enough.
Sierra Nevada's Torpedo.
Is that an ale? That's stretching a definition. I was thinking cask ale, sort of. It's not an 8% IPA. Because, to be honest, I mean, proper job. I like proper job. As a cask beer, as a cask ale, if we're calling it, if that's where our definition's lying, I think proper job's great.
I reckon, yeah, it's an Austal's proper job. Actually, I don't want to copy you, but I do like a proper job.
I think something different.
Oh, damn it. I haven't had one of those in ages.
Timothy Taylor, Landlord.
Oh, yeah, damn it, that one as well.
That's always one that if I've been to a beer fest, like Great British Beer Festival, after a couple of hours of drinking loads and loads of sweet, golden, fairly warm beers that could possibly be done with a lot colder. There's something about something like a Timothy Taylor Landlord. It's not something I drink, to be honest. I never drink that sort of beer at home, or mostly, but it's like a 5% palate cleanser. How strong Timothy Taylor is.
Oh, let's let them know what beer we're doing next.
Good thought, sure.
And for anyone who's joining us, hello. Thank you for joining us. I'm John. I work in production. This is Joe, head brewer and co-owner. Leave us a little question or a comment and let us know where you are and who you are and give us a little hello.
A Quattro. What's going to be the next beer?
Cool.
Well, do you want to chuck a couple of glasses open? Or? If this is a difficult question, just...
Oh, no, it's not difficult. We'll go for a combination of Edward's and David's question of what quantity of beer is brewed in each batch. And David, how many different beers in tanks do you currently have at the same time?
Sorry, what was the first question again?
Volume. What's quantity of volume presently?
Our current brew house is basically at a maximum of... We're limited by the mash tun, so our mash tun can hold sort of 220 kilos of malt at the moment. And so for, say, a 4% beer, we can get about 1,200 litres. But generally about the 1,000 litre mark. Of the stronger beers, that drops right down. I mean, when we're doing the 8% beers, we get like 350 litres out of it, and that's it. So how many, at the moment, we've got 9 vessels.
Yeah.
It varies a bit time of year. I mean, come the summer, we had patchwork in like 2 or 3 and West Coast in 2 or 3 at any one time. And then the limited batch brews and the other beers sort of filling the rest. Also, this time of year, we've just had a really big order for patchwork actually, so it was all patchwork. But
we've got 4 beers, I think, haven't we, separately?
Right now?
Yeah.
That's partly because we've just had this, having trundled along not a huge amount, we've suddenly got, for us at least, a really big order of patchwork. So we're having to brew patchwork 9 times in a row. And that's the thing. When we move to this new brew house, it's going to be over double the size. So, getting a big order won't completely stymie up our production. So we can carry on doing it. So we've also got new vessels coming, and that includes sort of a couple of 1,000-litre cylinder conicals, so we can carry on doing the limited batch brews, as well as hopefully selling a lot more of our main brands as well. So this is a Quattro. So this is sort of getting into the, I don't know if you want separation of craft and not. I don't know. It's a bit artificial, isn't it? Yeah. But this, if you're going to separate crafty and traditional, I guess this is definitely where we sort of start hitting the crafty end of it. So it's a pale ale. It's only 4.5%. 4.5%.
Oh, Adam asks, what's your favourite hop? It's one of the hops in here is Equinox. I do particularly like it. It's got ends up with quite an astringent sort of finish, kind of grapefruity, lemony. But that's one of my favourite hops. Definitely is the Equinox.
I love Equinox, particularly to my mind, Equinox with Mosaic, which is the West Coast, which we've spoken about earlier. But we've done a few like double West Coasts in the past. Where we've literally just taken West Coast to 4.5%, made it 7.5%, double the hops. Dry hopped it some more on top.
Can we do that again?
Yeah, cool. I love it. So mine would be Mosaic. I think I love it. I think it's just.
You can smell it a mile away. We're at beer festivals and somebody walks past you with a glass, you know.
Yeah.
It's Mosaic. He's drinking that.
It's like the only single hop beer that I think is good is Mosaic. I'm wrong on that. Everyone else likes it. But so this is Citra and Equinox. This is dry hop for a 4.5% beer. This is dry hop, shed loads more than the others. I think we're up around the 12 grams a litre. Whereas, say, Patrick was 4 grams a litre. So it is a lot more. No bittering hops at all. All the hops are in the boiler right at the end. Obviously, juicy, hazy. Probably could be yours. Hopefully, it looks the same. It's a bit pointless me showing you. But yeah, so the idea is that juicy pale ale. As you said, the Equinox gives it that sort of dryness.
Well, that one, that's nice.
It's mellowed out a bit. We tend to dry the beers quite soon after canning. We send them out quite fresh. And then we try them. We obviously make sure we're happy with them.
They always just change that little bit by like a week later as they just settle down.
It's got a real like lemony, like a. It's not tart.
This was the one we're beer tasting. We were inventing fruits.
Yeah, it's got like a. I don't know what's called, like a dryness to it, doesn't it? Listen.
Do you use any New Zealand hops? Asks George.
Yes.
It's Rackau.
Yeah, it's Rackau. We did Rackau Mosaic not long ago. We used to use it a lot. I think one of our older core beers that we did lose was Cross Pacific, which was a 4% one, and that had Cross Pacific, so New Zealand and American hops in it. We haven't used so much in the last year or two as we used to. But Rackau, I think, is a lovely hop. I really like Rackau.
Nelson's on beer somewhere in the pipeline.
We do. We've got the labels for it.
I haven't had that for ages.
I've got the hops for it. In fact, we've got everything for it. It just needs to be created. In fact, I even got a recipe for it. So
yes, George, we have done and we will do.
But not as much as we should. We should do more. I don't really like this. I think it's just refreshing.
Yeah.
It still gives that refreshingness, but it's got more to. There's more going on as well. It's quite.
Luke asks, when in the supermarket, hey Luke, thanks for your question, what beer or lager would you buy? For me, it's probably Proper Job or Proper Black. I like those two. Or Brewdog, the double punk. I had one of those the other day. That was very good.
I haven't actually been in a supermarket for ages. I ended up buying because of lockdown and everything. I don't know, Stone always used to buy quite a lot of Stone beers.
I haven't seen that in the supermarket for ages.
I guess that's because they lost their Berlin side, didn't they? So I guess they probably dropped that. Vacation, Love and Hate.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Absolutely.
Really nice. I tend to buy, whenever I do buy beer, which isn't very often from the supermarket, just not because of any elitist reason, just sort of tend to go there, and it tends to be an impulse buy. Tend to pick up half a dozen different ones. Magic Rock, got some of them in the M&S actually. Well, I've forgotten to make pudding. I have to go and get something. Yum nuts and a Magic Rock.
Will you brew a beer called Alex? Sorry, question from Alex.
Okay.
Will you brew a beer called the Firestarter in time for the end of lockdown?
No.
Could we? I don't know.
Firestarter.
Should we?
Should we? I don't know. I listened to that song. No. Okay. Tried to introduce the kids to it.
How would they take that?
Yeah, quite well.
Excellent.
I showed them Keith Flint dancing. Certainly.
Here's a vaguely technical question. Bush Baptists asking, what hops would you use for a British pale ale? At the moment, all I have is Brandon Cross, and I'm up for some ideas.
Jester's really nice. Definitely Jester and Godiva are both. I think they're relatively new. Charles Ferrum developed things, but we've used Jester quite a lot actually. I think that's really nice. So one of those two, I would say. And Brandon Cross is now. You get that black currency thing from. We've moved away. We used to use it quite a bit actually, but we've sort of moved away from it. As to be honest, we've stopped doing English style bitters. Really.
Rich asks, hey chaps, you're not a boring lager chap. There's nothing wrong with a lager. A good lager is a good lager, without a doubt. But he asks, I'm a boring lager chap. Anything else coming other than Hell's Beach?
Well, sort of. We've got this cold IPA coming, which is cold fermented IPA style beer. Yeah, but the idea really is to get that sort of refreshing feeling you get, I guess, from a lager, while still having a bit more of the juiciness and fruitiness from an IPA. So to combine those two things on a more strict lager front, I quite like the idea of doing another Oktoberfest beer, which we'd have to brew soon to then release in autumn.
Yeah.
I do quite like a stronger lager. To be honest, it's where we'll fit it in. Like because of the gas, because of the lockdown, holding up the gas installation, we're sort of a bit behind on getting the new kit in, and then I think we're going to run out of time for some of these not weirder beers, but sort of this long list of limited batches that I really want to make.
And some of those beers have like a time commitment to actually lager them down and just leave them alone for a little while.
Absolutely, and I think that's something that come the winter, and obviously demand on tanks gets a bit easier, or we might pick up a few more, hopefully. We can sort of commit a vessel then to, okay, we're going to brew this nice, strong lager and leave it in vessels for 12 weeks. And I quite fancy a strong barrel-aged lager. Quite fancy that. Maybe get some white wine barrels or something.
Yes, white wine barrels.
I think something like whiskey's going to overpower it, but something lighter.
Daniel, good question. I want to know the answer to this as well. Have you got any plans for a festival after lockdown?
Yes. Well, I say yes. That was bold. I think the plan is when sort of the final, if it does lift in June, I think the plan is to do something here. Live music and beer and food and just everything we all love. Whether we'll get back into doing, so we used to organise every year a beer festival in the centre of town, and I do want to go back to doing that. It's really nice, just a community thing as well, doing something in the centre of Launceston. And we will, I don't think we'll do it this year, but I think we'll probably do something at the unit. Our neighbours are very keen, they've got a stage and music equipment and things, which helps. And I'd love to, definitely.
I think Sean has nailed it. In the Aquatra, I'm almost getting an Earl Grey. Interesting, but super tasty. A bergamot. Is that the citrus fruit we can't put our finger on? Is it bergamot?
It could be. I haven't drank much Earl Grey.
I think it might be bergamot. It's like a bitter orange. I think that might actually be the citrus fruit we couldn't put our fingers on in this beer. Thank you, Sean.
Can you buy bergamot? Other than Earl Grey? No?
I don't know.
No, try.
That's an oil, definitely. I think it's a little tiny orange, but I might be wildly wrong.
A quick giggle on the side.
Paul Tibbets says definitely Earl Grey. Cool, bergamot.
Interesting.
The citrus fruit we could not find in our brains. Has a real sharpness and acidity.
Yeah, I think that's
fair.
fair.
With that, Tim, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's...
Yep. Maram says, what are we on now? Oh, we're on Aquatra.
Aquatra.
We're on now.
Not on there.
Are you going to do a limited batch beer for the European Football Championships? Southgate Citrus, Lineker Lager, or a Casa 12% special brew?
I don't know. Maybe we can combine them all in some kind of mix pack. I don't know.
Chris smells fantastic. Absolutely. Well, I'm sure he smells fantastic, but yes, it does.
We might actually show some of the football here. Actually, we've got a room potentially where we can show some football.
Ooh, Tim asks, how does the haze and fining or not fining influence taste? Does it?
I think it does, definitely. I mean, it gives a thickness to the mouthfeel, and mouthfeel is something that's quite difficult to quantify in sort of a mathematical sense, but it certainly, I think, gives a richer sort of mouthfeel to it, personally. And to achieve the mouthfeel, you've got to get obviously things in suspension to do that, and we use a lot of oats, and oats again give that creaminess, that thickness to it. So it might be in some senses that the processes you use to create the cloudiness, they're the things that give you the flavors rather than the cloudiness itself. And obviously you use a yeast, and yeast obviously has a flavor that doesn't flocculate as well. Yeah. And obviously a lot of dry hop. Like if we dry hopped it wouldn't settle out even if we did use or it took a very long time.
Maran, just open the Racco as it's a similar label. Fair enough. Great beer though. Absolutely. Racco Mosaic. Definitely. Tannicliffe, not a fan of the Quattro. That's okay. Hopefully you'll like the next one. Keith B says piney. I think I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
A little resinous kind of thing. For 4.5% beer, that's plenty of taste.
Yeah. I think so. Absolutely.
How do you decide? Oh, sorry, Gregor. Hello, Gregor. I recognize your name from sending out parcels. How do you decide which yeast to use?
It just depends on the style of beer that we're trying to aim for. So if we want a clean drinking, like the patchwork, or if we're designing a new beer that we want along those lines, then we'll use a well flocculating, well attenuating yeast.
Flocculating?
Yeah, so it drops out of suspension. So basically at the end of fermentation, it all sort of comes together and drops out of suspension, which will obviously leave you a clearer beer. Whereas with something like this, the Quattro, we'd use a less attenuating yeast, so it'll basically finish at a higher gravity, leave you a lot more residual sweetness to it, and potentially stay in suspension as well. Although it shouldn't really be yeast in suspension, to be honest. It should be proteins from the malt grist, predominantly hops, or predominantly oats, and from maybe the hop particles as well. But we found even with that, even if certain yeast strains certainly do promote the cloudiness and that mouthfeel, that thicker mouthfeel, as I said, which is actually the aim. Rather than the cloudiness is kind of a byproduct of what you're trying to achieve, which is the sort of thick, juicy mouthfeel.
John Page asks, is there a bar snack to complement this nectar? What would you pair with that? What did you have with it? Pudding, chicken wings?
Oh, bar snack. Okay, we're going big on our bar snacks.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Not just a bag of nuts. What would you pair with that?
Oh, I don't know, like fish tacos? Is that a bar snack?
Fish tacos, yeah, it can be
It's
a bar
not really
snack.
a bar snack.
I'd eat that in a bar. If that was on the menu.
Yeah, fish tacos, but like that. I mean, it's maybe
like that.
scampi fries. I can't think of a more sensible suggestion. Other than these two.
Lynn Phillips says, hi, hello, Lynn. How you doing? I'm from the tap room in Tavistock. Actually found Firebrand. Yeah, it was a good little bar. I like that place. It's a caps and taps. No. I can't remember what it's called. What's it called? In Tavistock.
Which Melinda's place?
Yeah, caps and taps.
No. Yeah, you put that in my mind. Tapped in.
Tapped in. There we go. Do Lynn ask a question? Hello, Lynn. A different Lynn. We're loving this. Thank you, Lynn. We're a little bit nervous before we start this, to be honest, because we haven't really done anything really like this before. But we're glad you're enjoying it. I was wondering, will we continue to do these once lockdown is lifted?
It depends if people want them.
Possible, yeah.
Yeah, it depends if people want them, really. Quite happy to do it. It's not, to be honest, a huge amount of effort. Just have to come and drink some of our own beers in our own tap room.
Yeah.
Yeah, get to abandon the kids for an evening, which is a winner, really. So, yeah.
I was very nervous to begin with, but I think after a couple of beers, I'm settling into it now.
Yeah,
It's
that's-
alrighty. And mostly because of you guys, your interactions, popping us some questions and things. That's really good. It's really good just to keep it all moving, changing the subject, and it's good. Thank you very much. Ollie Roberts wishes you to look into your crystal ball and asks, what's the next big trend in craft brewing and what dominantly drives the trends? It's you drive the trends. It's what you buy. It's what you enjoy as a craft beer drinker. And then as brewers, we try and supply that. I
Yeah.
think for that bit. What do you reckon the next thing will be? Or a fruit or a yeast or a style?
I don't know. I think, I don't know.
Maybe the triple IPAs that Tim was
Yeah, but I think,
asking about earlier.
yeah, I think it will go back towards that. I think people are already going back towards the more session beers. Though. Like, don't get me wrong, I love 8%, 9% beers. Like, they are amazing, and the like flavor you get from them can't be equaled in like a 4.5% beer. But at the same time, beer isn't necessarily, to my mind, something that you want to like analyze every drop of. And it's not necessarily functional, is not what I mean, but there's a feeling you get from having a pint of beer or glass of, or can or whatever. And so I think that more sessionable. But then it's, as you say, with the trend, I mean, it's not just going back to like your best bitter or whatever. It's possibly more like this, the epoxy, something, not saying we're trendsetters because loads of people are doing this, but something for that sort of refreshing pale ales. I don't know, if I was really good at spotting these trends, I'd have spotted a few.
Just make it up and say it's going to be the next big thing.
Yeah, maybe, I guess self-fulfilling prophecy, really, isn't it?
Meat stout.
Meats and nose. No, not what you start. Maybe, I know hard seltzer is big in the States, so maybe fruity pale, like as an added fruit pale ales or something could be. I think you chuck a whole load of raspberries into something like this.
Yeah, I like the raspberries. I'm going back to the raspberry sour again.
You got to think everyone's taste is generally getting sweeter, I think. So I don't think bitter beers are going to make a massive. All the trends are towards sweeter things, I think, in my opinion. So,
Sure.
yeah,
I like bitter.
No, I do.
Harsh.
Old. So, yeah, I mean, and the other thing is people are drinking less, and so maybe I'm wrong with the strong beers because people aren't drinking the pints of things. They are, having one a night. So maybe I wouldn't listen to anything. Any predictions I have to make?
The idea of a fire starter beer seems to be
Is this
mildly popular in there. And Christian, yes, that is a very fair question, and I'm not sure what the connection is between the two things, but is having a beard mandatory for brewing a good beer? I don't know why the connection, but yes, I agree that a lot of brewers tend to have beards.
It's hipster, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hipster lifestyle. Yeah, I don't know. It's just
I don't think it's mandatory, not at all. Not in the slightest.
so everyone here does. Oh no, Stephen doesn't.
Phil doesn't.
No, yeah, okay,
No.
we're two.
There are three of us. But yeah.
Barely.
Although there is a downside to having a beard or having a moustache, isn't there? And drinking a beer.
Maybe. Yeah, it gets white anyway.
Or doesn't it
It
take the
goes
head
to
off the
foam,
beer?
yeah, it does.
Oils.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It is.
Back to the supermarket and Yorkshire beer question. Tesco's been stocking vocation for all. Most of those are excellent. Absolutely. The Love and Hate. And what's the double called? The one in the orange can? Or is that Love and
That
Hate?
is Love and
That
Hate,
is
isn't
Love
it?
and Hate, yes. Absolutely. Tim, fully agree. Vocation brews some great beers. Which beer are we going to let them know we're drinking next? Where are we going?
Yes.
Sorry.
Thundercloud. We figured. So moving up through. Let's do that now.
Good. And Tullycliffe has asked a wonderful question. That is, what music are you boys into?
Um,
You can start.
well,
What's a couple of good albums from recently?
the Arab Strap album and the Nick Cave album, which you will hate both of, have
Oh,
both been
not.
released. You will. They've both been released in the last couple of weeks and are great. Personally, I don't know, all sorts of, I mean, Nick Cave and Grinderman
Yes.
are amazing. Also quite big into sort of hip hop, sort of rhyme says labels, anything like Atmosphere, sort of anything like that. Sort of alternative hip hop, I suppose. Plus Grinderman and anything like that. Words. That's what I
Wordy.
like. Wordy music.
Wordy music.
And you like everything else?
I like everything. I love dirty old funk, like 60s, 70s funk, and math rock. As a genre, it's a little bit niche, but a band called And So I Watch You From Afar. So I listened to their album a couple of days ago, and again with the hip hop, went back on a retrospective for early 90s hip hop for the last week or so. Psychedelic Prawn Crumpets, Australian band.
I like them. It's
Very
kind of, I think they're glam rocky.
Yeah.
They are. It's like glam rock, speed glam rock.
Speed glam rock. But
With
yeah,
a bit twiddly bits in
bit
it.
of them with twiddly bits. I love music. Less of the wordy. I quite like it when there's just music and the words are in the background, whereas Joe likes wordy stuff. I like a good instrumental. Russian circles. Yeah, quite like them. Go back to the beer. We're on a Thundercloud.
So 5.5% NEPA. This is probably the beer I think we've changed the most, or not changed the most, but I guess agonised over the most and tweaked from when we did several brews before we even made the first one, and as we've brewed it, we've made quite a big change to it. Was it in the autumn? It must have been autumn. Must have been before the middle lockdown, I guess. So yeah, I mean, it was to get that sort of that NEPA feel, really, I guess, is what it's after. So we wanted it 5.5%, so it's not too strong. We dry hop it 10 grams a litre, Citra, Mosaic, and Equinox, because they're all the favourite hops, so mash them all together. And over time, I guess we've made it slightly sweeter. We've taken out all early hops, which we used to have some in, so we've dropped that bitterness right down from what it used to be. And we've changed some of the process of how we do the dry hopping to basically recirculate more in sealed vessels and cylindrical conicals. And yeah, anyway, you taste it.
Cheers.
I really like that.
Refreshers. Almost like a sherbety, refreshery taste.
I think this really has a sweetness to it. Like it's in fact almost a bit too sweet for me personally. I prefer a bit more bitterness, I think, but sometimes. But I do really like it. It's got this tropical fruit, April fruit sort of thing going on. I think.
Opal fruit.
Starburst. That's because we're not in 1995 anymore.
Opal fruits and marathons.
Yeah. Don't taste a marathon in it.
You ever done the chocolate peanut butter beer?
No, I did that one experience with peanut butter. Well, peanut.
Dead
Elvis. No. It's very expensive buying the old peanuts, but I should do it again. I like peanut butter. So, well, let us know what sort of flavours you're getting out of it and what you think of it. But yeah, again, one of the ones so far, they've certainly on a sessionable end, I think. And at 5.5%, I think this fits into that.
Yeah.
Which is partly why we kept it in the 330ml can, and we have got more 440s as well. And in fact, some people have 440s, I think.
Yes.
Some are 330s.
Like you have a big can, so
we ran out of 440s. A few more people bought the box than we thought would. But that's partly why we kept in the 330s, for that sort of that idea of it being like a sessionable sort of thundercloud, sessionable NEPA. IPA. So you get that feeling of sort of tropical fruit juice, but also well done. It's good.
Great.
Oh,
no, technical. Would you like a technical question?
I can do that now. I might leave you for a second to.
Yep, fair. I'll have to run away after you as well. Tom asks, do you make any alterations to your water or pH when brewing?
Yes, definitely.
Always.
Which is, yeah. The water where we are it's so soft. There's virtually nothing in it. It's neutral on pH, but it's Yeah, just so soft. And so basically, which is great, really. Other people have to do RO to their water to reverse osmosis to give it a blank slate to work from, whereas we basically have that out of our borehole, which is great. So all of our beers have a fair amount of water additions, and we tailor it to the beer. So for this, so the Thundercloud, the Nipa, the Aquatra, things like that, we very much up the calcium chloride compared to the calcium sulfate, and that accentuates the sort of multi-fruity sweetness to it. Whereas if you up the calcium sulfate, which we do on graffiti, certainly a little bit on the Anhao, you'll get more of the sort of the hot character coming, so it accentuates the hot character a bit more in a more bitter way. We found we found the water since I mean, it's now a long time ago, a year or two after we opened, where we've really got into water chemistry, and I sort of read a couple of books on water chemistry that made I think the biggest single difference to our brewing, quality-wise. It's such an important part of it. Without any additives, it's pretty good for stout porters. Dark beers do well on our soft water, and lager, with virtually no additives for the lager, because that suits really soft water. But yeah, a lot for most of it. But again, very tailored to the beer. It's not just, we don't just add in, we don't just Burtonize all the water.
Burtonization.
If you've got a question, you can field.
Yeah, I reckon. Anyone who's just joined us, I'm John. Joe's just run off for a second. With Firebrand Brewing, thank you for joining us. I'm really looking forward to seeing you. I know it's been a strange little time for the last year, and I'm able to get in pubs and drink with each other and socialise, but it's a wonderful thing with the internet, being able to do this. But if you're passing by, if you're coming down through, just be great to see you in the near future, once everything all opens up and we're all allowed. Got a question there from Lynn. What's the perfect percentage strength for a beer? And myself, I quite like a higher percentage beer, because I find if I drink a larger amount of a low percentage beer, I just get a bit bloated. So I prefer to drink like 2 or 3 higher percentage, 7.5 or so. It's my more interesting taste. Often there's more hops in those beers, and I'll just pour myself a little glass and then keep going back to it. So yeah, that's a personal preference. I prefer a higher percentage. I drink them a little slower, and don't have quite so much volume in my belly. So that's my sort of preference of a percentage of beer. Glad you've been enjoying the online. And everybody's been coming along and interacting with us and sending some questions. We were saying that it's the first time we've done this, and we're both a little bit apprehensive and nervous. It's like public speaking, but with no sort of immediate interaction. But all your questions and things down the side have been great. It's really good to hear from you. I recognise some of your names. I tend to get the orders together for dispatch, so I'm recognising some of your names. See you as the regular customers coming through, and it's really good. Thank you very much for your support. It's been really good, definitely. Tom was asking there if we're planning on doing any non-alcoholic beers. We've just done a little experiment with a table beer, with a 2.5% beer. We're sort of working our way down towards it, just giving it a try and seeing how that works in the mash tun, to be able to brew those lower percentage beers and still get a good hoppy taste to them. That would be accurate for the low percentage ones.
I didn't hear the first half, but yeah, it sounded sensible.
Are we planning on doing non-alcoholic beers?
Yeah.
A little way there with the table.
Yeah, we're going to try a sort of 0.5% beer after the table beer. Partly just a bit of an attempt to drink less at home myself. Yeah, it's just quite nice to try. I'm not convinced it is going to be such a big thing as some people think, but it's interesting to do. It's an interesting challenge from a brewing point of view, to be honest. It's like a bit of geekery, really.
Oh, I'm going to also have to wait a second. Just try and find you a good question.
Yeah, find me a question that I can.
But first, Keith B. Absolutely. I was listening to them the other day. Keith B says, one of the bands down there that were bloody fab were Root Juice. They absolutely were. Their cover of Taxman, Anniversary, Just that entire album, Rhubarb, was brilliant. I was listening to them the other day. It was great. I want a T-shirt with a logo on.
There's
Brilliant
some
band.
anniversary. They popped up on. I saw them pop up on Facebook the other day. I think,
Yeah,
some
they do every now
anniversary
and then.
since.
The usual run, the usual. Yeah, the anniversary. Brilliant band. They were a little. No, they weren't little. They were a band in the 90s that were just from Cornwall. They were one of those bands where they were massive in Cornwall, but nobody else really heard about them. But check out Root Juice. They're very good.
Reduced tribute actors.
Fat Freddy's Drop and Graham Montague. Absolutely. Alex Rawlinson says pure grapefruit from the Equatra a minute ago.
Oh, the Quattro, yeah.
Yeah.
No, technically, I thought you were saying from the Thundercloud.
Oh, no.
We're ahead, aren't we? Yeah, definitely. I think that Quattro's got that. Yeah.
Andy Peckman says no one talks about the peanut butter experiment.
Just don't, yeah. No, that's not too. I like that. It's all right.
There is, yes, more online tastings. No.
I'm always happy to drink beer.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird doing it in front of a camera, but
And which beer will we head to next, do you reckon?
coffee stout.
What have we got
So
left? Two?
yeah, two. We've got coffee stout and a Mandarin Mosaic. We weren't really sure where to fit the coffee stout in because the rest are all pale ale, so quite naturally progressed through the flavour as I guess as flavour strength goes up, even if ABVs have moved it around a little bit. We thought we'd go off piste for the coffee stout and then finish on the Mandarin Mosaic.
That's Damien Holloway's absolute favourite.
Thundercloud.
Thundercloud, yeah.
And I think a fair opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What would you put in the fire starter? This may end up being a thing.
It might be a thing. Are
I
we
have to go
going?
and
Are we
brew
going,
this.
are we going literal? Are we going like chilies or something?
I don't know. For some reason fire starter cinnamon is. I think I'm thinking of fireballs or something like gobstoppers.
Oh, that sounds gross.
Yeah, it does. I'm not keen on cinnamon.
I'm vetoing this. The cinnamon, the cinnamon gobstopper beer. Maybe. I don't know. Are we? Is this first? Is this based on the Prodigy song, or are we going on? Are we just going on general like?
Twisted fire starter.
Something sort of quite. I don't know how beer can be fast paced, but like. I don't know.
Put a mind to it. Help us out. Drop us an
Yeah.
email. Let us know what should be in the fire starter, and we'll
A style, at least a
consider
style.
at least a style. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a style and ingredient, and give it. Well, maybe the chocolate chipotle stout. Fire starter. Who
I
knows?
don't know.
Let
Yeah.
us know. What should go in the fire starter?
What's it going to be
Pop
like
it in
an
here.
Essex York beer?
I'll leave you with one from Jen. How do you experiment with new beers you haven't brewed previously? And how long does it take till you think you've got something that will sell? I think it's just experience and time for you, isn't it?
A lot of it is experience and time. So we've brewed with. It's a bit different if we've got a new process or a new hop we haven't used before, and then we might try a beer out, do a small batch, and not necessarily look to release it. Otherwise, I think mostly we've sort of got it dialed in on what will work. So as I said before, about sort of we know that 10 grams a litre will do this, and if we use Mosaic plus maybe a new hop that we haven't used before, and it's just and a lot of times it's just being bold and not adding enough and just making sure you add enough so it's not bland. I mean, that's in craft beer brewing, the worst thing it can be is bland, I think. Sometimes certainly it's good to brew the beer and and then we can sit down and write the tasting notes, and because that's one of the passion fruit pale. I guess that's one that we turned out a bit different to how we intended. It was still nice, it just wasn't quite what we meant to do. So it's just then a case of pivoting and just being really strict on our quality control. If it's if we don't like it, we don't sell it. So if we brew a pale ale something a bit different, and it doesn't quite pan out how we want it to, then we just won't sell it, and we'll take the bits that worked and brew another beer using that experience. Is kind of how we try and approach it. Not quite sure where you're up to on the questions, so
Oh, I hope you're doing very well at home, enjoying this. I haven't been drinking entire cans of beer, and I'm a little bit wibbly, I have to admit.
Speed.
I hope you're all doing okay.
And what would be nice when we have a tap room, we can do some tastings, informally, in the tap room. So we can do a bit of this, guided sort of tasting, or semi-guided. I'm not sure I call it guided, but I'm very much looking forward to doing that.
I have one you're up for a question.
Always.
Well, he asks, what have been the biggest barriers to growing as a brewery, and how have you overcome them?
Biggest barriers. I mean, production. You're always limited to production. Is always say how much we can produce. I mean, expertise in marketing and sales, I guess, is. Obviously, I started with Steve in a brewery because I like beer and I like brewing, and to be honest, that's where my personal interest lies. Is the science of brewing and the technical aspects of it. But running a brewery isn't. It's not all that. It's not all just brewing or that side of it. You also have to sell it and market it and all the rest of it. And to be honest, I think my abilities in that sector has possibly been the biggest stumbling block. And as a small business, obviously, you do everything. You do, bits of sales. We've had other people do sales, but but I think where we've the last couple of years and where we're working towards now is we've had another business owner come in and help. And for that expertise, we recognised we needed to. So, and then hopefully, particularly from this year, once this lockdown's out the way, we can all sort of specialise. Really, I can focus back on brewing, not worry so much about the marketing ourselves. We've got really good people, Ben and Phil and all the rest of them have come through, and they can get on with it. And then and we can just focus on making the beer better and better. And since we're in production, that's the best bit, obviously.
Absolutely.
Obviously in Cornwall, Cornwall is a hyper competitive. I mean, it's amazing coming from Cornwall because the brewing quality in Cornwall is amazing. We've got two of the three biggest cask selling breweries based down here in Shops and St Austell. You've got probably the biggest or second biggest craft beer brewery with Vedant, plus all the little small ones, Skinner's, a great Cornish brewery. The first cask beer I really got into. And then all the other ones of our sort of size, Harbour, Padstow, Black Flag, it is competitive, but in a good way. It pushes everyone to be better, I think.
Definitely, it's good to have a bit of a challenge, a bit of competition.
Yeah, and it's a positive. We all get on, I think, but to our faces, I think. I think we all get on. Whether they think the same.
We're on the same boat. We're on the same thing. It's like being chefs. You're gonna get on and trade ideas and recipes.
You've got service to get through.
Yeah.
Don't chuck us over a glass and I'll do the coffee stout.
Absolutely. Maram is feeling hungry. What do you snack with when you're drinking beers?
I mean, I'm terrible. I'll just eat salt and vinegar crisps with anything, always.
I like cheese.
Cheese. I mean,
cheese with the beer, some cheese, some sauerkraut, some ferments, some bits and bobs like that.
I think cheese is the right answer.
Yeah, cheese, especially with a stout. Yeah, definitely. Like Black Bomber, something like strong, mature cheese with a stout. Or smoked beer, definitely.
Even with IPAs and things, like a strong, maybe more down the English IPA with a strong cheddar or strong. It's really good.
Or meat.
Meat.
Just lots of little dishes of tastiness, a bit of pork and a bit of beef cheek. Some smoked beef cheek. That'd be nice right now.
Yeah, no, that's true. Or with like lighter days, you could do some more like spicy snacks and things because IPAs pair well with spicy food and curries and things. So samosas and chicken tikka and things like that. Tikkas, like little bit like taste. I mean, again, we're a bit far away from snacks again, aren't we? But snacks that takes 2 days of prep.
But that's
and a smoker.
We both love cooking, and Joe's just introduced me to curry cooking book, Damn Tunes.
Yeah, the curry goes
really good. For making like British Indian takeaway style curries. That's proper good. That's awesome stuff.
And just so much better than no offense to any Indian restaurants, but it's just way better.
And our version of snacks is it will take 2 to 3 days to plan drinking beers and making your food, smoking things overnight, and it's just nice.
It is. No, it is. It is. So I fancy an Induja with the red beer, like something with Induja with Citra Red, like an Induja pizza or something.
Induja.
Yeah, like the that Italian spicy sausage thing,
Ah, right, yes.
like the fermented sausage.
Ah, that's how you pronounce it.
Induja, that's how I pronounce it.
I don't know.
I mean, that's probably
It's one of those words
probably,
I've never attempted. I go, oh,
probably anglicised. I reckon Induja pizza.
Somebody has said chili chocolate stout for fire starter.
Yeah.
Absolutely should be a chili beer, big smoke and chili. Oh yeah, smoke and chili. Smoked malt,
Yeah, we could smoke them up.
dry chipotle chilies.
Yeah.
Nice. Or a German Bock. That's going to take a little while. I'm not sure we're going to get a Bock ready for the end of lockdown, are we?
No. It's going to be twisted, I think. Brew it like a Belgian yeast or something and
Yep, speed it up.
brew it like really warm to get all the, like those fruity esters from the Belgian yeast.
Yep.
But with chili and something else.
Bush Baptist, yes, I was gone again. I'm really sorry, and it's not professional, and I apologise to you specifically. I did have to offer another week. I'm sorry. You're utterly correct to pull me up on that. I'm sorry. And he has total respect for the guy's bladder on the right. He doesn't think you've moved a muscle yet.
Yeah, I snuck off. It's just stealthy, like Drax, invisible.
Oh, should we sniff the beer?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, I'm gonna just been drinking it, to be honest.
Cold brew coffee.
Very much like cold brew coffee, and I think, yeah, I mean, I really like our coffee stout. It's not as, I guess, again, I mean, it's been a bit of a theme, which isn't always the case, but just with these beers, they've all, the aim, I mean, obviously the aim of everyone's beers to be drinkable, but it's sort of an ease of drinking, I think. Which I do, that's not to say I don't like the really thick coffee, sort of sweet coffee stouts that you get. And I think we'll brew one. I think we'll do like a 9% version and make it that sort of thick, imperial stout version. But on the other hand, I really like this. It's almost refreshing, I think.
Yeah. Which you wouldn't expect from a stout.
No. I mean, I love coffee, so to be fair. I mean, so this is the one that we've got, well, it's called a hot rocket. Although we predominantly use it for this, actually, which is coffee beans. It's a big stainless steel tube with a filter in it, and we brew the stout, and then we put, it's about 20 kilos of coffee beans in it, 25 kilos coffee beans in it, and then we recirculate for about 4 hours. We recirculate the beer through the coffee beans while keeping CO2 pressure to keep the DO levels down. And it just extracts all this coffee flavour out of it. And I think it just, that really nice, smooth coffee flavour to my mind.
Smooth, a little vanilla-y, almost sweet, but not like sugary, claggy sweet.
And buying good, we get decent coffee beans as well, and they're not just, I don't think you get Nescafe coffee beans, but they're not that.
How wide an area is most of your clientele? I say pub-wise, probably Devon and Cornwall.
Yeah, pub-wise, we've got, and that's slightly a conscious thing. We used to sell a lot quite wide, London and all the way up through Midlands and Sheffield and the north, I suppose. But last year in particular, we did sort of it just makes more sense to focus locally. There is, you spread ourselves quite thin by going quite a wide area, and actually we thought what we want to do is really push, particularly Patrick Rocket, but I guess Firebrand Brewing as a whole, and put more effort into where we live. It makes far more sense, really. As far as online goes, that's obviously UK wide. I think you put more in boxes than I do.
Yep, absolutely.
UK wide.
I don't think we do Europe, do we?
No.
No,
I mean, it's not all just gone on Devon.
No, absolutely.
So.
Most definitely.
More than I do. I don't think I've had anything in the box.
What we're on there. Maram is eating cheese and mustard. Good choice. Absolutely. Get a little sauerkraut in there. Paul Griffin likes cheese and onion cob and a pint. All good. Can't argue with that. Most definitely. Keith was asking if any Firebrand gets exported.
Not at the moment. Well, we did. Well, it's difficult because we did. But we've done a lot to Italy, really. But obviously, since last March, they were hit fairly hard, and then, it's just sort of. I think everything's on a bit of a hiatus, to be honest. in that point of view. We had a few, we've got, well, Italy were a good customer, and then we've got Sweden sort of ticking along behind, but everything's just sort of, anything long term has basically stopped for a year, I think. So it's difficult to tell, but hopefully.
Yarganettle cheese, is that still a thing? Yeah. Still a thing? You still get yard, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the novelty's gone slightly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's nice.
So that was a statement out of nowhere.
Statement, yeah. I assumed it was from somebody rather than just in your mind. Yeah, I mean, Cornish blue, I guess is.
Yeah,
Cornish
absolutely.
juice.
Somebody just mentioned Cornish blue.
We had a lot of it, and I think they had I think they had far too much stock during lockdown. Certainly the first lockdown, because everyone's restaurants shut. And we ended up about 3 rounds of Cornish blue at home.
Good stuff.
It's nice, yeah.
No problem with that.
No, not at all.
Oh, have you thought about opening your own chain of pubs?
No. Well, yes, we have thought about it, and it is. Yes, in theory, I like the idea because you direct to consumers. You can, it's that connection with people. The beer quality is how you want it. You control it.
Cliff has confidence in us. He says we can do it.
That's nice of him.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've learned. We opened a restaurant a few years ago in Launceston, which did okay in the end, but that was hard work, and it's just employing people is, not you obviously, but just it's something that was more of a restaurant, and it's just so much harder when you have so many members of staff, and you're not on the site. 'Cause obviously, our focus has to be on brewing, but I think something along the tap rooms or a couple of tap rooms, off-site is something we've muttered about. Will certainly be, yeah.
Ben says, does what it says on the tin, perfect, not too not too thick, and slips down nicely. I agree, Ben. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting one from Ed. How caffeinated is the coffee stout?
I don't know.
Way to gauge it.
Probably. We thought about testing it because when we went out to Craft Beer London, which is a beer festival up in London, we have a bar there. What we often do is set up, it's called like a randomizer, and basically it's a small filter that sits between the keg and the tap, and then you basically, you can fill it with hops or coffee beans, which is fruit, anything, and basically it will pick up all the fresh flavour. And we did that with coffee a few times actually, and I mean, especially if you try it in the morning, it's sat on the coffee all night. It's just beer has been steeping in coffee beans all night, and we did wonder like what the caffeine content would be. I haven't, to be honest, I've never looked into it. I presume we could get it tested.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we'd like what we found. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that stuff at the beer festival, the caffeine content in that, when there'd been just 4 litres sat around a couple of kilos of coffee beans, it was that kind of caffeine content when it'd been sat overnight. Not like this one, but yeah, that was.
Yeah, it's just
excitable stuff.
Yeah, I don't know quite.
Do you have a favourite Scottish brewer?
Favorite Scottish brewer?
Yeah, I was trying to remember the name of the brewery that Evelyn used to bring in beers from.
Windswept?
Was it Windswept? I think it was an island brewery. Their beers were good.
Yeah. Pilot are the best on Twitter.
Yeah.
They certainly haven't actually tried them, but very good on Twitter. Who do we? Something I used to try quite a bit of. I'll remember them in a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. I can picture the label. I can't think of the name of the brewery. It's been so long.
There's some nice stuff from Fierce. They're quite good. Campervan Brewing. Do some intros, more your street. They're weird and wonderful ingredients.
Oh yeah,
We did
coconut.
Coconut stout.
Coconut stout, something. Yeah. Ooh, excuse me, Richard Hardy in Dorset says, "Well done with the coffee stout. Up to the best of them. I try lots of these, and it holds its own." Thank you, Richard.
Thanks.
Good stuff. Glad you enjoy it.
Tempest is exactly who I was thinking of.
Yep.
Somebody's just said on something.
Yeah. What food would go well with a coffee stout? Again, I'm going cheese.
Cheese?
Yeah, definitely, Daniel. Cheese.
Or stews, any kind of stews, anything rich.
Oh, yeah. Or putting that in a stew.
Yeah.
That and a beef stew.
You could put it in a stew. Coffee stew?
Yeah, I reckon it'd cook down right?
Yeah, like coffee gatto or something. Dessert.
Berry gatto.
We're not in the gatto. Good. Good.
Richard Hardy spent a few nights awake after too many coffee stouts. He really does love his coffee stouts, by the looks of things.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. Like I said, we haven't measured the caffeine. It wouldn't surprise me if it's relatively high. Not invested, I think.
Andy Pegman is utterly correct. Coffee stout with the Biscoffs.
Yes.
Those little coffee biscuits. Yes, absolutely.
Be serving like a hotel lobby.
There.
So Biscoff.
You see, they've got that as spread.
Oh, yeah.
Biscoff spread.
Vicky said something
It's
about
not nice. It's like somebody's chewed your biscuits up and put them in a jar. It's not nice. I'm not keen on dunking biscuits. I
No, it's
into
a
hot
weird
drinks.
thing. It's a weird thing.
Do you dunk biscuits into hot drinks? Do you not? No. Biscuits should be crispy. Should we move on to the last bit? We're getting towards 10 to 10.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
Full glass.
I've got some crisps at home to eat. So.
You must hurry home to my crisps. I'm looking forward to this.
So this is Mandarin Mosaic. So this is I'll pour it out first. Nice big glass.
A pure mid-range hotel experience of yes, a coffee and a Biscoff.
Yeah, that's nice.
Look at that. Oh, I
Maybe
can
that's
smell it.
Maybe that's the chain you should have. It's not bars at all. It's
Mm.
mid-range hotels.
I can smell that from here without even touching the glass. The vanilla, the booze. There's no vanilla in it, but it smells so desserty without putting it anywhere near my face.
So this is, well, obviously final beer of the night. 8.5. Well, for us, you do whatever you want.
Probably when I get home, to be honest.
Well, okay, yeah, just so I like to be fair. But anyway, off the tasting. So yeah, 8.5%. I mean, thick, juicy.
That mandarina hops, like you were saying earlier, the flavour of the mandarina hops in this batch was just fantastic. Okay, I like that a lot.
That's yeah. I think I preferred the last one actually.
That is just oranges and
That oranges,
and
that
mosaic.
lingering last flavour is just.
We're overly gushing about our
Yeah,
own
it's our own
beers.
beers,
It's
I know.
proper nice.
Bit
It really is nice.
self-congratulatory,
I just felt like
isn't
a little bit embarrassed, but yeah, that's proper nice.
Yeah. I mean, it is boozy though.
Yeah, that's
I
good.
think that gives it that warmth, doesn't it? That body. It's really.
And you can't hurry it. It's not a guzzler.
No, you'd be a mess, I think.
Mm.
I would be.
My question I was answering earlier was a preferred percentage of beer. And I was saying a small amount of high percentage rather than more low percentage, was my
Yeah,
preferred.
depends on the evening. I think sometimes, like on a Friday, I don't know, today's a Friday, but generally like a couple of sort of the weaker pale ales.
Yeah.
But yeah, certainly if I was having one beer on a night, something like this is, yeah.
Happy 50th birthday, Dan.
Happy birthday.
Cheers to you.
Mm.
And Kevin asked us to give you a little shout out that you're watching, so happy birthday to Dan.
Oh, I really do like that. We're gonna have to do that.
Yeah.
That's so like orangey. It's just,
And
but like
Mr.
actual
Bailey.
oranges.
Hello, Mr. Bailey. Delish, glad you're enjoying them.
It's not just like something quite pithy. Whereas this isn't. It's like the juice. It's like
Like, I don't know, freshly squeezed orange juice. It's that mandarina hop. It's proper nice. Oh, I'm getting overly excited about it. That's proper tasty. And it's changed from 2 weeks ago.
it has.
I haven't had that for a couple of weeks. That's improved, I think.
I think so.
Because it was real sherbety, kind of sweet at first.
Yeah, I think it's actually lost some of the almost syrupness that it had before. So this is 20 grams a litre in total. So double that of Thundercloud. 10
20 grams per litre of hops.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Just in my mind there.
Yeah.
But yeah, 10 grams a litre each of Mandarin and Mosaic. No bittering hops in the boil. I think we just use Mosaic at the end of the boil. And then, 10 grams a litre of Mandarin and Mosaic. And Mandarin and Bavaria. 10 grams a litre of Mosaic. It's nice.
Daniel Panton asked, how do we get that flavour? That was exactly that, by putting a huge amount of hops in it, and really good hops. The mandarina is also Mosaic, which said is a good hop, and this Mandarina Bavaria is just oranges in a plant.
It is.
Very
Oranges are a plant. Yeah, and also the malt grist, it's all malt. There's no sugars or anything, so there's a lot of oats. I think it's like 35% of the grist is oats.
That gives it a smooth mouth.
That really smooth, and because it's all malt, so you do get that booziness to it. It's 8.5%.
Mararon's had it before, and I have to say it's her favourite. I think this is heading towards being one of my favourites as well. I agree.
So I have to go back to that question from earlier, the one beer.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, all right, the one beer for this one.
Whatever beer you're currently drinking.
Shout out to Grant Wilson. Can't be here tonight from Kristen. Hello, Grant. Ollie is enjoying the double IPA. Excellent. Glad you are. So are we. As the Cornish vernacular was used, proper tasty. Glad I ordered an extra. A lot of breweries seem to be able to mask an ABV and taste. Now this does. Good. Glad you enjoy it.
I don't know if it masks the ABV. I think it tastes.
No, I think you taste the ABV. Although the fruitiness does make it easier.
It's like orange.
If you had an 8.5% lager,
yeah, I suppose.
you'd be wincing a bit after a sip of 10.
There's no burn. There's no alcohol
No, there's
burn,
no
I
like
suppose.
burn at the
Yeah,
back of the throat, which you get from some. Is that the added glucose or sugars that give the?
Yeah, possibly. Yeah, I mean, if you have stressed fermentation, if you don't use the right yeast, you'll get like higher alcohols produced and things. And
Yeah,
using
this hasn't
sugars
got-
and things, but no, it's got a slow fermentation, quite low in temperature, so that might help suppress the sort of higher alcohols produced. Carry on self-congratulating.
I know. Yes, Paul Griffin. It has been great. We will do it again sometime, and look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks for coming in, spending the time. What can we do to sign up to future events like this? I think we'll pop it out in emails. We'll pop it on Facebook, Instagram, all the kind of usual places where we'd send things out. So yeah, if we do another one, when we do another one, we'll let you know. Absolutely, we'll do a little beer tasting box and send the bits and bobs out to you.
We'll have to wait till we have 8 new beers.
Stuart Lamb, agrees with that. He doesn't taste like 8.5%. It doesn't. It doesn't have that burn and So I think it's getting towards us signing off.
So it must be nearly 10 o'clock, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So if there's any last questions, we can do 3 more minutes.
John Page is off for a lie down. I know what you mean. Absolutely. May end up having a little snooze on the sofa in a little bit. I guess we shall shoot off, leave you to your evening, to have a few beers. It's been really good to be able to interact and have a little chats back and forth with you and field some questions off you. Like I said, we're a little bit nervous having never done it before, but you've really helped. You've massively helped us go through these beers. We've really enjoyed it. And just thank you very much.
Yeah,
It's been
awesome.
good.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Go on.
And look forward to seeing you home, seeing you soon. Sorry, I was reading a question at the same time. Hope you two are walking home. Yes, absolutely. We shall not be driving, most definitely.
All right.
And thank you very much. We'll see you all soon. Bye for now.